but tough people do. With regard to security, currently the Republic is facing security threats in the form of armed militia groups, creating insecurity and undermining the young democracy. The government has accorded the highest priority in reaching peaceful resolution to these internal conflicts. 4 of the armed militia groups have laid down their arms and integrated voluntarily into our national army and civilian life. Mr. President, we believe that internal and external security of our nation is a prerequisite in having meaningful economic development and social progress. While we are working tirelessly towards achieving and maintaining peace within our borders, critical unresolved issues remain between South Sudan and Sudan, including border demarcation, citizen rights, the status of Abyei, and oil-related issues. The lack of progress in these post-independent issues has been posing threats to peace and stable relations between the two countries. Our relations with the Sudan reached a critical juncture last year when Khartoum blocked tankers loaded with our crude oil and prevented from departing Port Sudan. In addition, Sudan seized and resold crude oil that we had sold to international customers. By January of this year, we had lost some $800 million in revenues. At that point, my government was left with no choice but to shut down the oil production. This decision was publicly supported by the majority of our people. Mr. President, in this context of South Sudan and Sudan relations, it is incumbent upon my government to shed some light on what became known as Higlig or Pantau incident between us and the Republic of Sudan. This crisis was the result of increasing border tensions and repeated bombings in the border areas of my country by the Sudan Armed Forces. In April this year, our forces clashed with the Sudan Army in an area inside South Sudan, several kilometers south of Higlig. This resulted in our armed forces taking over Higlig temporarily, acting in self-defense to prevent it being used as a launching pad for military attacks by the Sudanese armed forces on our country. In compliance with advice from the international community, we then withdrew our forces soon after. Although Higlig is historically part of South Sudan, it was not our intention to take it by force. We believe we will settle this matter through peaceful negotiations. Mr. President, another area in which we believe we have not been well understood by the international community is our alleged support for the SPLM North. What may not be fully appreciated by outside observers is that these forces are integral members of the SPLM. But although they fought side by side with us, they were not fighting for the cause of Southern Sudan independence, but for their own cause. Through alliance with us, of course, we shared a common vision of creating a new fundamentally restructured united Sudan of inclusivity, equality, and dignity for all, without discrimination on the basis of race, ethnicity, religion, or culture. But we also had issues that were specific to our particular situation and which for us eventually led to our independence. It should be recalled that the CPA, the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, included a special protocol on Southern Kordofan and Blue Nile states that addressed their special grievances. That protocol is yet to be credibly implemented. As former allies, we contributed significantly to our success in achieving the objectives of our struggle. We obviously have a moral and indeed political obligation to assist SPLM North in addressing their legitimate grievances as stipulated and agreed in the CPA. In this connection, South Sudan is currently carrying the burden of accommodating an increasing number of refugees from the two areas. We therefore call upon the international community to assist in meeting the humanitarian needs of these refugees within South Sudan, as well as through Sudan territory for those internally displaced by the conflict. Our president stated in his statement at our independence celebration, I quote, "We cannot abandon them, but we would support their cause peacefully through negotiated settlement between them and the government of the Sudan. South Sudan will use its good offices as a former ally of the SPLM North to assist the Sudan by acting as an honest broker in mediating a peaceful but just resolution of the conflict. We believe our role as honest broker will in long term assist our neighbor in the north, the government of the Sudan, to achieve peace and stability. We are glad that the United Nations recognizes that there can be no military solution to the conflict and that a negotiated settlement is the way forward. Mr. President, I am pleased to inform this Assembly that today, President Salva Kiir Mayardit and President Omar Hassan Ahmed al-Bashir signed an agreement that will allow the two countries to pursue their national development under a secure and lasting peace. We are hopeful that the new agreement with the Sudan will lead to the resolution of our differences on security, borders, and the use of petroleum infrastructure. It is envisaged that if each side upholds its part of this agreement, the most significant causes of dispute between our two countries will have been amicably resolved. Diplomacy would have won and reason would have prevailed. With the resolution of these key matters, preparations to resume oil production in South Sudan will now begin. Agreements signed today between our two countries are as follows. 1. Agreement concerning oil and related economic matters. 2. The framework agreement on the status of the nationals of the other state. 3. The agreement on boundary demarcation. 4. The agreement on border issues. 5. The agreement on a framework for cooperation on central banking issues. 6. The agreement on trade and trade-related issues. 7. The agreement on certain economic matters, division of assets, liabilities, arrears, claims, and joint approach to the international community. And finally, 8. The framework agreement to facilitate payment of post-service benefits. Mr. President, whereas we are happy with all that has been agreed today by our two countries, I wish to inform the General Assembly that we failed to reach agreement on ABA. President Bashir has rejected the proposal of the African Union High Implementation Panel, as stipulated under Resolution 2046 of the UN Security Resolution. It is now incumbent upon the AU Peace and Security Council, together with the UN Security Council, to take the necessary action for the way forward. We are thankful to both the AU Peace and Security Council and the UN Security Council for their great efforts to bring about this agreement between our two countries. Mr. President, as our President stated in this forum 1 year ago, it is the ambition of the people of South Sudan to transform our country into a regional agro-industrial powerhouse with reduced dependence on external assistance and the potential to feed the people of South Sudan and a possible bread basket for East Africa. Our strategy remains at utilizing oil wells as a catalyst to stimulate our economic development potential, with emphasis on agriculture. Mr. President, we are conscious that we cannot achieve these goals alone. We need continued support from friends, partners, and the international community. We are confident that together we shall overcome the challenges ahead. I take this opportunity once more on behalf of the people and the government of South Sudan to express our profound gratitude for the support rendered to us by the UN, by the AU, regional organizations, friends, and partners. Finally, Mr. President, allow me to reiterate the resolve and the commitment of the people and the government of the Republic of South Sudan to be a productive, active member of this global family of nations and to make their contribution in promoting world peace and prosperity for all humankind. Thank you for listening.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank Vice President of the Republic of South Sudan for the statement just made, and I request protocol to escort His Excellency. The Assembly will hear a statement by His Excellency Winston Baldwin Hanson, Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs of Antigua and Barbuda.